Hi, welcome to another video. So, I've talked about Pi a couple of times on this channel already, and I've told you that it's basically my daily driver now. But today I want to make a slightly bigger claim, which is that Pi is currently the best way to use any AI model, period, and especially the cheaper open models like DeepSeek. Not just because I like it, but because there's now actual benchmark data backing this up, and I'll show you that in a bit. So in this video, I'll talk about why Pi's tiny system prompt approach is winning, and how even Claude Code itself has now come around to the same philosophy. Then we'll look at the Composio benchmarks, where a Pi-based harness beat Claude Code, Codex, and OpenCode on success rate with DeepSeek. And after that, I have Pi open here, so I'll just walk you around the tool and show you what's where. So let's get right into it. First, let's talk about the system prompt thing, because I think this is the single most underrated reason why Pi punches above its weight. Most coding agents ship with these massive system prompts. Claude Code's system prompt was famously sitting at something like 10,000 tokens of instructions, best practices, and opinions, all injected before you even type a single word. And here's the problem with that. Those prompts are written for one model, usually the lab's own model. Claude Code's prompt is tuned for Claude, so when you plug in DeepSeek or Kimi or GLM into one of these harnesses, the model is drowning in thousands of tokens of instructions that were never written for it. Some of it helps, some of it actively confuses the model, and all of it costs you money on every single request. Pi goes the complete opposite way. The system prompt is tiny. We're talking a couple hundred tokens. It basically just tells the model what tools it has and gets out of the way. The bet is that modern models are smart enough to not need 10,000 tokens of handholding. And it turns out that bet is correct. And here's the interesting part. Anthropic themselves have now admitted this in behavior, if not in words. They recently cut Claude Code's system prompt by around 80%, and their own testing showed no performance loss. Let that sink in for a second. The most polished agent harness in the industry deleted 80% of its instructions, and nothing broke, which basically means most of that prompt was dead weight all along. Pi was built on this assumption from day one, and now everyone else is slowly converging on it. If you ask me, that's about as strong a validation of the minimal harness philosophy as you can get. There's also a second-order effect here that I find really interesting. When the harness barely says anything, you're getting the model's raw behavior, not the harness author's opinions filtered through the model. So a small prompt harness is naturally model agnostic. It works amazingly with basically everything you throw at it, because there's nothing in there to fight with. And that's exactly why Pi is such a good home for models like DeepSeek, which are dirt cheap but weren't the model these big harnesses were tuned around. Now, let's look at the benchmarks, because this is where it gets fun. Composio ran DeepSeek v4 Flash through 4 different agent harnesses: Claude Code, Codex, OpenCode, and Pi, which, if you don't know, is a fork of Pi made by Can Boluk that bakes a few more power tools into the Pi foundation. Same model, same 30 agentic tasks, only the harness changes. And the results are really telling. On tasks passed, Pi came out on top with 17 out of 30. Claude Code and Codex both got 16, and OpenCode got 14. So the Pi lineage harness beat Anthropic's own harness with a DeepSeek model on success rate. On speed, Claude Code was actually the fastest at 123 seconds median per task, with OpenCode close behind at 130, while Codex and Pi were slower at 245 and 272 seconds. And on cost per successful task, OpenCode was cheapest at around 7 cents, Codex at 8, Pi at about 10, and Claude Code was the most expensive at almost 20 cents per successful task. So, a different harness won each metric, and that in itself is an interesting result. But here's my read on it. The gap between the worst and best harness was 14 versus 17 tasks. That's a 3-task swing out of 30, roughly 10 percentage points from changing nothing but the harness. People will pay thousands of dollars and wait months for a new model generation that moves benchmarks by that much. And you can get it for free by picking the right harness. The harness is not a neutral pipe. It's basically part of the model. Also, notice that Claude Code was the fastest, but also nearly 3 times more expensive per successful task than the cheapest option. That giant prompt and all the extra machinery isn't free. You're paying for it on every request. Meanwhile, the Pi-based harness got the most tasks done at half the cost of Claude Code. Slower, sure, but if an agent is running in the background anyway, I'll take done correctly and cheap over fast and wrong every time. And I know it's Pi in this specific chart rather than vanilla Pi, but they share the same DNA and the same minimal prompt philosophy. So as far as I'm concerned, the whole Pi family is validated here. Now, one caveat, because I always say this: it's 30 tasks, it's one benchmark, take it with a grain of salt, but it lines up exactly with my day-to-day experience of running open models in Pi, so I'm inclined to believe it. Anyway, now let's come to the tool itself, because I have Pi open here, and I just want to show you around a bit. So, This is what you get when you run Pi in a project. Just a clean terminal UI. No onboarding wizard, no login wall, no telemetry pop-ups asking you to accept things. You type, it works. And this cleanliness isn't just visual. The whole tool is genuinely light. It's a small TypeScript codebase with 4 core tools: read, write, edit, and bash, and everything else is optional. It starts instantly, it doesn't eat your RAM, and there's no cloud account attached to your terminal. Honestly, half the tools in this space now feel like they're one update away from becoming a SaaS dashboard, so this feels refreshing. Down here at the bottom, you have the footer, which shows your current model, your context usage, and cost. If I open the model picker with the /model command, you can see the provider list. This is where the any model part lives: Anthropic, OpenAI, Google, DeepSeek, Kimi, Grok, Mistral, XAI. It's over 15 providers and hundreds of models. And there's a models.json file where you can wire up literally any OpenAI or Anthropic compatible endpoint. So local models and coding plan quotas work too. The killer detail here is that you can switch models mid-session and keep your entire context. So I can run DeepSeek for the everyday grind and flip to a heavier model when things get nasty, all in the same conversation. Then there's the session tree, which you can see with the /tree command. Your conversation is stored as a tree, not a flat list. Every message has a parent, so you can jump back to any earlier point and branch off from there. So when the agent goes down a wrong path, you don't sit there with poisoned context for the rest of the session. You just hop back to before the mess and try again. There's also /fork and /clone if you want proper separate copies, and /compact for summarizing older context. To this day, I don't understand why every agent doesn't work like this. Over here, I have my .py folder, and this is where the extension system lives. Extensions are just TypeScript files that hook into the agent's lifecycle: custom tools, custom /commands, custom UI, safety rules, whatever you want. And the fun part I've mentioned before, you can ask PI to write its own extensions. Next to that, you have skills, which are the same idea as Claude Code skills, folders of instructions the agent pulls in on demand, and prompts, which become simple /commands. And if you don't want to build things yourself, the package system lets you run Pi install with an npm package or a Git repo and pull in things like subagents, plan mode, or to-do trackers that other people have built. The core stays minimal, and you opt into complexity. That's the right default if you ask me. And the last thing I'll point at is that everything here also runs headless. There's a print mode, a JSON event stream, an RPC mode, and a full SDK. So the same setup you're looking at can run in scripts and CI. Combine that with DeepSeek level pricing, and you can have agents doing nightly chores on your repos for basically pennies. So that's the state of things. The industry spent 2 years building heavier and heavier harnesses, and now the data is showing that a minimal harness with a tiny prompt not only keeps up, it wins on the metric that matters most, which is tasks actually completed. Even Claude Code is now shedding weight to catch up, and for open models like DeepSeek, which is probably the best value in AI right now, Pi is simply the best home they've got. This is what I majorly use for most of my tasks, and this benchmark just confirmed what I've been feeling for months. Overall, it's pretty cool. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you liked this video, consider donating through the Super Thanks option or becoming a member by clicking the Join button. Also, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, bye.